Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Always Out of Market podcast, otherwise known as the Stephen and Jason show. And it is not the morning, but we're happy. Football is back, baby. We're this close to the regular season. You'll see 26 days from when we're recording to when the Chiefs take on the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. Obviously, we're in preseason. There's training camp going on. There's a lot of things happening in the NFL world, and it's been exciting, but it's still not the regular season. We're just so close. So, how you feeling, Jason?
I am very happy football is back, and I am very excited for this season for so many different reasons. So we're under that 1 month mark. That means the preseason football is in full swing. There's games literally happening right now while we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, we just basically, at the time we're recording this, the end of the first quarter, where both Josh Allen for the Bills and Caleb Williams for the Bears were playing a little bit. So we got to see a little bit of those guys. Obviously, we're not expecting to see a whole lot more. Don't want anybody getting hurt, but you just still want them to get a little bit of playing time. And I don't know about to you, because obviously this is our third year doing this. But for some reason, to me, Jason, and obviously we started 3 years ago, and I was much more of a casual fan. Like, I mostly just watched the Titans and then the occasional game other than that. And then, obviously, last year, got more invested and all that too. But I will say this year just feels like every team is so unbelievably different from where they were last year. Just about every team. I mean, we were talking about the Bills. The reason Josh Allen, at first we both were like, why is Josh Allen playing in the preseason? But it's like, he has to. He's got brand new receivers, basically. Khalil Shakir is his return guy that has experience with him, which I think we talked about it. We think Khalil Shakir will be really good, but he's got to make that step because, you lost Stephon Diggs, you lost Gabe Davis. Those were his guys. And then the Broncos going through a quarterback change. That's going to be very interesting to see who's even going to win that job. It probably will be Bo Nix, but, we'll still see how things shake out. We know Sean Payton doesn't hesitate to make a change if he has to.
I actually, right before we started, I was on Twitter, and Sean Payton has announced that for tomorrow's preseason game, Jarrett Stidham will get the first quarter start, and then the second quarter will be Bo Nix. So, that's not what I expected, honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting why he would wait to have him play till later in the game. But
it might be that Jarrett Stidham is the only quarterback that was on that team last year, so he probably knows the playbook the best.
But yeah, it's exciting. We obviously have been taken basically, it's been a month since we recorded. The last thing we recorded was talking about the Broncos deep dive. And then, obviously a lot has changed for y'all. And, I think about, obviously we can't speak as much for the other teams that are in our podcast, like the Dolphins, the Packers and stuff like that. But we know what we know. You know your Broncos. I know my Titans. And obviously the Titans are completely different in every way possible. It's not even the same team whatsoever. So I don't know what to expect. I'm still excited to see a different team. But obviously, as you see on our screen below us, basically, the thing that makes me the most sad. So obviously, Jason's sad because he hates the Chiefs because they're division rival. And then I'm sad because I have to see Derrick Henry in another uniform and the Ravens. But overall, and to be fair, neither one of us like the Chiefs. It's just you obviously hate them more than I do. But yeah, it's just, I just think this year is going to be just the most insane year. I don't know how it could get crazier than it has the last couple years, because it just seems like every year I'm saying this, but this year is just a whole other level. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams, like you said, that are going to be just like a brand new team, basically. There's not a lot of teams that come to mind when I think of ones that are going to be pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
The only ones that
like,
really come to mind for me is I think about the 49ers feel pretty
yeah,
similar. The thing about it, and I don't know if it's on your list or not, we got to talk about Ayuk. I think that's going to be the key to seeing what this 49ers team is like. But is that one of your bullet points by chance?
it wasn't, but we can talk about it.
Well, I want to talk about it because right now, I mean, there's several teams dealing with this. I mean, they deal with it every year, but there's some notable ones this year, holdouts. And Ayuk is the big one for the 49ers. But people talk about Ayuk a lot. People are also not addressing Trent Williams is also going through something like that. And that's also a pretty big deal because he's one of the best offensive linemen that you could ask for. So, but Ayuk, especially, him being a skill player, you're going to see him a lot. Him not being on that team will affect them because in my opinion, I think Debo Samuel felt like kind of the running back / wide receiver kind of dual threat type skill player. But to me, like the true wide receiver one in that system was Ayuk. Now, not everybody agrees with that, but that's the way I saw it. But if they lose Ayuk, that'll be a different team for sure. They'll still have lots of players, and then the Lions have been very quiet this offseason. But if they can keep most of what the Lions were from last year, I think things just have to go their way, and they can easily make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. You pretty much, I was for sure going to say the 49ers were one that they seem to be pretty close to the same. Um, but we've seen how teams change year over year. They may be the same team, but then they may be a lot worse than they were last year
Yeah.
out of nowhere. Yeah, I feel like the Lions lost a couple of people this year, right? In the offseason. I feel like they did.
I can't think of anybody. Not of the major people. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. We'd have to look at like a list to see, and I'm sure somebody that's like a Lions fan would definitely know. But
Yeah,
I mean, I'm thinking about all their major players: Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aiden Hutchinson, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta. I mean, I'm thinking about all their guys. A lot of their guys are either really young and are still on rookie contracts, or they're just really good and they're going to keep them. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I feel like, is still, even now, even after how he was last year, is still an underrated wide receiver. He's so good. He is so unbelievably good.
yeah.
The Sun God
They
is another level, but
they have a lot of weapons over there in Detroit, like in every way to get the ball to somebody between tight ends, running backs, and wide receivers. They've got one of the best in the league, if not the best.
yeah, I don't know too, because like to me, I don't know. Everybody felt this way, and maybe it was just my bias from being in the AFC, where it just feels so incredibly stacked. For me, last year it felt like the NFC was a lot more wide open. On you got your few teams that are like Super Bowl contenders, and then just everybody else. And that's kind of how it. I mean, if you look at like the draft order, that basically showed that. That even if you were like the worst team in your division in the AFC, you were still not picking super early. So I don't know. I feel like maybe the NFC will be better this year and in total, but who knows?
Uh, as a team in the AFC that I go for as well, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Being in one of the most stacked divisions in the league every year.
Yeah. And I mean, another team that I've been thinking about a lot in the offseason for your sake, especially, is the Chargers with Harbaugh being there. It's going to be a completely different Chargers team. Like, I have always associated the Chargers as a team that no matter what, we're throwing the ball. because everyone talks about, Eckler just a couple years ago when he was there and he was good. Like last year, he was not good. Now he's a commander of all things, which is gross. Um, you know, Eckler even like he was more of a receiving type back. They were always throwing the ball, and I think that's about to change. I think they're going to be a run heavy team with Harbaugh there, and that'll be very different. I'm still not sure they did the best they could have done running back wise to make that work, but that's what he likes. So,
Well, we'll find out here in a few weeks what they look like.
yeah. But we brought up Ayuk, and then another one that I'm curious to see how you feel about it, because obviously you were. I associate this player with you a lot just because we thought it was weird how early you took him in the draft last year, and then now he's basically pick 1, 2, or 3 on most people's boards. CeeDee Lamb. Let's talk about the Cowboys, man. What have you been seeing about the Cowboys this offseason? Because it has been nuts.
I've just seen that Jerry Jones just is not worried about paying CeeDee Lamb at all for some reason. And when he goes to a different team, probably going to wind up being one of the division rivals because that's just how the NFL seems to work these days. He's going to regret it.
God. Yeah, yeah. Jerry Jones, like seeing that clip of him saying that he has no sense of urgency and like all that. And I'm like, and obviously CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb saw it. He reacted to it on like Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, why are you doing this? You're alienating your own team so bad. I mean, you waited too long to extend Dak, and obviously Dak did not play good in the playoffs. We know that, but he's still a really good quarterback. He was in that conversation for MVP, and now you've let all these other teams, bam, 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 basically always slightly raising that cost, and now you're going to have to pay Dak Prescott a lot of money or you're going to lose him. And then same with CD. Realistically, CD, you should have extended him before Justin Jefferson got his deal done. That should have been your main goal, because you could argue that he should get Justin Jefferson money. He's basically right there with him. I mean, I'm pretty sure CeeDee Lamb had the most receptions as far as wide receivers go, and which is why he's up there in the fantasy draft boards now, because if you're running a PPR league, that's a lot of points. But
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like, I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was just like, thank God I'm not a Cowboys fan, because, obviously, they just get disappointed every year. They look like they're going to be good, and then they just, whatever reason, they fizzle out at the end there. But just for you to do this to your fan base, and like, basically you're risking losing all of your good players, especially after saying stupid shit like you're all in. It's just, I don't know.
So the only thing I can think of is that maybe Jerry Jones is about to do he's going to hold on to a handful of his really good players like Dak,
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb,
Yeah.
And those guys, and then just tear down the rest of the team and build a younger team around those guys, so that he's not going to have to pay that many people a lot of money. This way he can pay his guys the big bucks and then have a bunch of rookie contracts.
I don't know, but we'll see.
That's the only thing that's the only thing that makes sense to me, at least.
I don't think there's any making sense of it with Jerry Jones, though. Let's be honest. But
yeah.
All right. So what are some things you wanted to talk about, Jason? What do you got on your list?
So we talked about CeeDee Lamb. Well, we got I've got a couple of 3 things about the Titans on here.
Okay.
That you guys have done. We can start with signing Jamal Adams.
Did not see that coming at all. I will tell you. That was the biggest surprise for me this offseason. there were a couple surprises. I will say, I think the Titans have had the most incredible offseason I've seen because, we've talked about it the last couple years, when there was the announcement that they were going to bring on Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator. And I remember that episode well when we recorded, and I was like, yay. That's how I usually feel about our signings and stuff, like not just for our players, but for our coaches and stuff like that. I'm just usually like, eh. And like, we didn't do great wide receiver wise last year. We didn't take a wide receiver until literally the last round of the draft. And he's on our PUP list, obviously, this year. So whoop-de-doo. And then, I'm just thinking about, all these seasons of just kind of being just really mid in the offseason. And like, we signed, last year it's like we extended Nick Westbrook-Akine. That was our big extension, which he is Mr. Reliable. Me and Tyler talk about him a lot. Every time we go to a Titans game, it seems like we should bet on the anytime touchdown for Nick Westbrook-Akine because for whatever reason, he always scores a touchdown when we go. He was the guy who scored the flea flicker when we went to that Broncos game. So, he's just, and then, of course, we went to the Falcons game. Will Levis threw 4 touchdowns. 3 were to DeAndre Hopkins. The 4th one was to Nick Westbrook-Akine. So, for whatever reason, he's reliable in that way, and he's had a lot of good plays in this offseason. But overall, just kind of underwhelming. But then this year has not been that way. It's been incredibly exciting. The biggest one, which we'll get into the one you brought up, because we're going to also bring up the other safety that we signed that I think is a little bit better. But, we, of course, got L'Jarius Sneed in the trade with the Chiefs. We ended up winning Calvin Ridley. We definitely overpaid him. There's no denying that. But if he ends up being what he could be in this offense with good separation, letting Levis just air out the ball with that fucking slinging big dick arm that he's got, it could be incredible with Calvin Ridley this year. And just to steal him away from the Jaguars is just sweet, sweet nectar. I love it so much. And then, obviously, the Colts were also in the L'Jarius Sneed conversation, so it was nice to get him instead of them. But, overall, it's just been move after move. And, I feel like a lot of teams, if they made these kind of moves, there'd be a lot more people talking about them because it's the Titans. No one gives a shit. I get it. We've been kind of, mid. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone, when they think of us, they think of Derrick Henry, and he's gone now. So I get it. But I'm hoping we're one of those teams that just comes out of nowhere. That's what I'm hoping for this season. And I think the AFC South will be really good. But, yeah, you bring up Jamal Adams. That was the one that I was just like, what the fuck? I didn't even have him on my radar that we were going to sign him. Now, I think there's a chance, we did get one of the another big move that we made in the offseason. After hiring Brian Callahan, we got Denard Wilson as our defensive coordinator. He was the secondary coach for the Ravens, and they had a great defense last year, as we know. So getting Denard Wilson was good, and I think Denard Wilson sees him as a potential. Denard Wilson's going to have a very aggressive defense, and I don't think Jamal Adams is necessarily that strong in coverage, but he could be a potential kind of linebacker / safety type player, kind of in between, maybe even go for a few, be on the blitzing packages and stuff. So there could be an opportunity for him. And obviously, yes, our buddy Ryan, a bit of a tough environment to bring up Jamal Adams with the Seahawks fans because they spent a lot on him. I think, didn't they moved up in the draft or something to get him, or they gave up a lot to get him for some reason. They took him in the first round or something like that. I don't remember all that, but I just remember everyone saying that, they invested a lot in him and he did not live up to that. So, it could be one of those. We didn't pay him very much money. It was really a cheap deal. So it may be kind of a prove it deal. So it'll be fine. But we were in the Justin Simmons and Quandre Diggs sweepstakes. I was a little disappointed. If we'd gotten Justin Simmons, this would have been the greatest offseason of all time. It really would have. I would have fucking lost my shit if we had signed Justin Simmons. And then as things kind of went along, a lot of rumors were kind of going around. The rumor mill was active. And it kind of looked like it was going to be Quandre Diggs, and it made sense. Seahawks, we already have, one guy. Let's get his teammate. And Quandre Diggs, even though he didn't have the best year last year, he's been a Pro Bowler. He's been pretty good. So, I'm not upset about it, and it's definitely more of an issue of me and Tyler have talked about it that we made some incredible moves, but if we start having injuries, we're going to have the same problems because our depth has been absolute shit. At least now with Amani Hooker, Elijah Molden, and Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams, we've at least got 4 safeties that I think are reliable enough that we're not sending in undrafted free agents and these guys that probably shouldn't even really be on a team are out there because that's what I'm used to seeing. I'm used to seeing our main players going down and then having our little, people that have no business being in the NFL out there on the field. So,
Well, who else was it you wanted to talk about that you guys signed?
didn't I say everybody?
Oh yeah, you did. Never mind. Sorry. I've been so distracted looking over what I have on my sheet right here.
Yeah, I also just dumped so much Titan shit on you, so I went on my little rant. You'll get yours for the Broncos too, of course. But yeah,
well,
go ahead.
There was one part of y'all's off season that you didn't mention that I have on here, and that was about Arden P having a 6-game suspension.
I will say that's one particular area that I'm still pretty worried about for our team. I think our secondary, when it comes to the corners, are incredible. And I feel like we even have a little bit of depth now at corner. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. that we took in the draft, I think has looked really good. He's probably cornerback 4, and he could probably fit in any of those roles. The safeties, I think we're okay now. Linebackers, we're not good. We're not good, Jason. We're talking about putting Jack Gibbons back out there with Arden Key being out, and most people don't know who Jack Gibbons is, and there's a reason for that. We do still have Harold Landry and a couple notable guys, but Arden Key had like a weird. He had a PED suspension for I think it's 6 games. He's talking about I think they were talking about trying to see if they can reduce it. I don't think it'll happen. But we've already had some offseason stuff that is kind of, it's been a lot of hype this offseason, and there's been a few things that have tried to kind of knock you down a few pegs. Arden Key's suspension, DeAndre Hopkins getting hurt, which they're saying he may miss at most a couple weeks of the main season, like maybe week 1 or 2. I don't think he'll miss any. I think he'll find a way to be there in game 1, but we'll have to wait and see. And then, our linebackers are not good. I'm a little worried that, I think some of the best quarterbacks out there in the NFL are good at taking what the defense gives you instead of always trying to make big plays. You want your big plays too, but if all of our corners are covering all the wide receivers, but you've got a tight end or a slot receiver, somebody that's right there and can get you 5 or 6 yards, and we have linebackers that are slow and can't keep up with them and cover them, then that's where I think a lot of teams might be able to take advantage of our defense. So, but we'll see. They're saying they look better than they thought, and again, Denard Wilson, brand new defense, how he's going to use them might be completely different, but that's it.
All right. I have to start marking stuff off that we've talked about so I don't forget.
You're good.
So, all right. I don't have anything else on here about the Titans. Is there anything else that you can think of that we missed that you want to talk about?
Um, just gonna say Will Levis looks really good, and I think we have one of the best backup quarterbacks we could possibly have in Mason Rudolph. He's looked fantastic too. So there's a lot of people talking about if Will Levis plays bad, that Mason Rudolph would replace him. I don't see that, but if Will Levis gets hurt for a game or two, I think Mason Rudolph going in there would be totally fine. So I feel pretty good. I'm still the last thing I'll mention is just I'm worried about our schedule because I think it's pretty tough for a fourth place schedule. A lot of our teams that we're going up against have their over under for games won is pretty high, so that's why I could still see us finishing with a similar record from last year, but I still think that will mean that we're still better than we were last year. But that's it. That's all I really want to talk about. I'm just ready for the games to start. I want to see that week 1 versus Caleb Williams and the Bears and see what that looks like.
You get to watch your team play in just a few hours right from now.
Yeah, if I can figure out how I'm going to watch it, since we're technically out of market. So
NFL Plus, unfortunately, is the only way you're going to be able to watch it.
Do you actually get the out of market stuff too?
Yeah, you get all the out of market preseason games.
Maybe I can look at it, see if I can just buy it for like a month or something.
After our episode, I'll walk you through what all it is.
Okay.
Well, we'll stay in your division for an injury. Josh Downs on the Colts has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for about a month, so he could miss week 1. I don't know who they play, but
I don't either.
He could miss week 1.
Yeah, I mean that's tough. I think, Josh Downs is solid. I think he's a solid player too. But and even Tyler mentioned that he hates that forum. I'm not gonna say that I feel that bad about it, just because it's something to maybe knock down a division rival a little bit, but also you don't wish that upon anybody. And it certainly would help Anthony Richardson to have one of his main targets out there. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Right now we're in that stage where it's like, thank God it's still preseason because these injuries are happening, but they can still come back. But the further we get along, then we're going to start having problems and people will be out actual games too.
Yeah, and I actually have on here, there's a team on here that has already had a couple of injuries, and it's making me think they're going to be the team this year that is just that team that keeps getting big players injured every game, or what feels like every game at least, and that's the Falcons.
Really?
Rondale Moore out for the season already.
What? I didn't hear about that. Oh my God.
He was carted off with a leg in an air cast for practice, and they announced he was out for the season.
That blows.
And then in the preseason game yesterday, DeMarco Hellams went down and was also carted off with an air cast on his leg. Huh. So they have already had a couple of major injuries that are going to have people out for potentially the whole season.
That's a team that's gotten a lot of hype this offseason, the Falcons. They've also been the most made fun of team in the NFL though too, with the whole Michael Penix Jr. thing. If you want to see a great video, check out our highlights. Well, not really our highlights, just the stream for the NFL draft that we did, because we all had a very crazy reaction to them taking Michael Penix Jr. And most of the NFL, I mean, there's literally like compilations people have made of people reacting to that draft pick.
Yeah.
So that's what's crazy. But I mean, so I guess Kirk still has. I mean, he still has Drake London, and they signed Darnell Mooney and stuff like that. So they still got some receivers, but yeah, I mean. So Rondale Moore, he was on the Cardinals, is that right? Last year,
I think so.
And so that Okay, well, that sucks. That sucks that we've already got a, out for the season type injury, and it hasn't even started yet. Is any other?
Yeah,
I'm sure there's other teams that have those, but I haven't heard about any of you.
not so far. I know there's been like some injuries, but it's not nothing that's like you know
You're
out for a
done.
long time.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well, actually, uh, we do have one on the Lions. Emmanuel Mosley tore his pec, so he is out indefinitely.
Mm.
Uh, there's not really a timetable for a torn pec, I guess, in football. Um, so he's that's a big blow for the Lions defense. Their secondary was their biggest issue last year uh, on defense, and it did not get much stronger. It looks like because now they're down Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah, I feel like the Eagles were the ones who took all the notable um, people in the draft this year to kind of clean up the secondary. They did
Yeah,
get the Lions did get Terrion Arnold though, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah,
But
so
that's big shoes to fill for a rookie.
damn right, damn right. But I think he'll be really good though. He was the notable one that I was watching in the draft. But the Eagles, I know um they got the guy that
Cooper
from the
DeJean.
huh they got Cooper DeJean, but they also got the other guy that was like really good in the Senior Bowl, and I'm totally blanking on his name right now.
I don't know who you're talking about.
God, it's gonna bother me. If you're watching this video, no, add it in the comments below. Um, yeah, he was like the standout player at the Senior Bowl. He absolutely popped off, and everybody, I don't think he was originally looking to be like a first round pick type option, but he ended up being one. And then of course Cooper DeJean fell. Um, he fell in the draft further than a lot of people thought. So
Yeah.
okay, anything else you want to bring
Uh,
up?
oh yeah, I've got a few more bullet points. We don't have to talk about them for long though, except for maybe a couple. The first one we'll bring up is Rashad Penny decided to retire at 28, uh, just a week ago or so. Uh, that's I wish I could retire at 28.
Don't we all? Look, and it's funny you bring that up because we had a retire. We had a player retire super young. Sadiq
Oh
Charles.
yeah,
He
yep.
came from over from the Commanders, and he just decided they said personal issues or something like or personal things. I don't know, but it caught me off guard. So I know about that. It's like, why are you retiring so young, especially when we need an offensive lineman? But yeah, I didn't hear about Rashad Penny, but was he still on the Eagles, or was he
I
just
don't
a
know.
free agent? I don't know if they brought him back or what, but
I'm not sure about that one. But regardless, I mean, he would have had a great career if he could have stayed healthy. I think at Seahawks. Uh, let's see. Well, the Bills, we talked about them way earlier at the beginning of the episode because they're playing right now. They signed Kareem Jackson to a 1 year deal. So from the Broncos to the or from the Texans to the Broncos, back to the Texans, and now to the Bills. Uh, good luck with him.
how
That's all
how
I can say.
what's his over under on games that he's thrown out of?
It's got to be 2.5.
That's the only thing I associate him with. I couldn't tell you anything about what he's done as a player other than just.
He was really good when he came into the league, and he was pretty good while he was on the Broncos. I mean, other than getting thrown out every game, it seemed like he
Yeah.
was a good player. So, I mean, like I said, good luck to the Bills on keeping him for half the season. Um, well, I should have brought this one up when we were talking about retirements. Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles
Big Dick Nick.
retired. Um, yeah, he decided to retire after 11 seasons. So, uh, he had a pretty great career for being a backup for a while.
I mean,
I mean,
he's a Super Bowl champion, so
yeah.
came in there. I guess that was. Well, I mean, obviously he came in there late. It was Carson Wentz, I think,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden, yeah, Big Dick Nick brought them to the Super Bowl and
I
got him a
mean,
win.
kudos to him for not letting that season be ruined by a quarterback injury. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of teams, if that happened, they would have lost the rest of their games. I mean, uh, we'll keep it up in the Northeast. One that I wasn't surprised to see that Tyler put in our Discord yesterday, that the Patriots released Juju Smith-Schuster.
big mistake. Can we talk about they could have brought back Jacoby Myers? They let him go to the Raiders, and he honestly was pretty good last year, considering. Because you got Devonte Adams there. Honestly, he performed better than Devonte Adams in quite a few games. Um, they let him go. They get Juju Smith-Schuster for basically the same amount, if I remember correctly, or something similar.
it, yeah, it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, that he did not live up to their expectations. So, yeah, I wasn't exactly surprised by that, but at the same time, it's like, what are the Patriots going to do? You know, they were in the Brandon Ayuk conversation, but then apparently you know, they had like the deal and everything worked out, but then Ayuk was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that."
Yeah, he doesn't want to play for the Patriots or the Browns.
He wants to
So
be a Steeler for whatever reason, or that's just the rumors, but it seems to be the case. I don't know why you would want to go to the Steelers. You know, you really want a 10-7, 9-8, 10-7 season and a first round
yeah,
exit in the playoffs. That's what you get.
yep.
Um, it's funny we bring it up. It's kind of a weird kind of tangent to go on here, but for the Steelers, would you if you were an actual Steelers fan, how would you feel about the Mike Tomlin extension? Do you think you'd feel good about it or bad?
I think I would feel bad about it.
I think me too, because I mean, y'all know, especially after we re-ranked our teams and everything. I have a bit of a hatred for the Steelers at this point, just because you want to talk about the most boring. Like, I'm sorry if you're a Steelers fan, okay, but you watching any of those games was like watching a fucking, like, it felt like you were getting tortured. It was so boring to watch. And even after they got rid of their offensive coordinator that literally had, people chanting it, fire Canada everywhere, they still were not that great. And just, that team, it's like, I kind of feel the same way about Mike Tomlin that I kind of felt about Vrabel, in the fact that, yeah, they'll surprise you and they'll find a way to win games they have no business winning. But I didn't feel like Tomlin could still get them to that next level, without, not with the players that he has. And that's not necessarily his fault. That's like a general manager issue or something like that. But and then just to have the weirdest quarterback room of all time this upcoming year is going to be just so weird. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields on that team is going to be really weird. So,
A lot of ego in that quarterback room.
a lot of ego in the wide receiver room too, you could argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of weird mixed feelings about George Pickens too as a wide receiver, because he's like, he doesn't seem like much of a team player. We saw some clips of him like not even bothering to block or anything when it was a run
Yeah.
play and stuff like that. So it's, I don't know. Steelers is a big mess, but for whatever reason he wants to go there, and I'm sure if he went there, he'd be pretty good there. But
Yeah.
especially since they don't have Deontay Johnson anymore now that he's a Panther. But I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I've got two more bullet points. Obviously, if you think of anything other than these two, we can talk about it. Obviously, yeah, we're having a great time recording this for the first time in two
Feels
months, basically.
feels good. Feels good to be talking football again.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of extensions to talk about. The first one we'll talk about is the Bucks extending Tristan Wirfs on a 5-year, $140 million deal. Uh, yeah, good move.
Very
Don't
good
let that
move.
man. That man needs to retire a Buccaneer at this point. Don't let him go.
I'm telling you.
Um,
I'm telling you. The Buccaneers, they've got some dogs on that team.
Sneaky good.
Sneaky good team that no one talks about. I felt so confident. There was one thing that I felt confident about when we did our playoff bracket was I felt that the Buccaneers were going to beat the Eagles in the wild card round, and they smacked the shit out of them. If
Yep.
if if Baker Mayfield's on point and you got good people protecting him, which they do, and you keep Mr. Reliable Mike Evans on that team, you've got a good team. And then we
Yep.
can't talk about you've got to talk about Antoine Winfield Jr., absolute stud. They've got some major players on that team, but nobody talks about the Bucks. I feel like they should get more recognition.
It's that lull after Tom Brady left, so no one's talking about him now because they don't think they're going to be any good without Tom Brady.
There's a lot of teams that go through that. It seems like they lose a major player, and it's like that was the guy we talk about, and now they're gone. So push them to the side. We do what
Yep.
gets us numbers and gets views. But yeah, I mean, I still think realistically that the NFC South, I think, is going to be probably a battle between the Bucks and the Falcons again. Because I mean, I'm sorry to the Saints fans too. I just feel like the Saints are a very solid third place team in my mind. And
Well, the only thing that would make me disagree with you is that if this injury bug keeps up going for the Falcons, they
true,
won't be good.
true. And then
Now, if that was their extent of major injuries this season, then yes, I fully agree.
yeah, but I mean, if the injury bug really starts picking up, yeah, my thoughts would be the Bucks are probably winning that division. But yeah, great job. Keep your players that are making you successful, and he is one of them. So I saw that move, and I was like, you don't pay attention to those type of moves as much as like the big players that just immediately jump off the screen at you, but that's a player you want to keep. So good move, Bucks.
Yeah, and the last one I've got is our resident absentee Matthew. His Jordan Love signed a big extension, 4 years, $220 million.
That is the definition of high risk, high reward in my mind. But what are your thoughts on it, Jason? I don't think I really talked to you about it.
I mean, Jordan Love is going to be good. It seems like for his career, he's been pretty good so far, but that is a lot of money and a lot of trust.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going to stay the way that he is right now. I would have tried to, if you're going to give him that much, I would have been like, look, we'll give you 4 years, $200 million. Like, just take a little bit off the top, and I think I would be okay with
it. No, I don't know. It's one of those things that it's obviously a lot, and I would feel kind of mixed about it probably. But at the same time, it's like we saw what he did. He absolutely torched the Cowboys defense that has been good all year, torched them in the playoffs. I don't know if that was a Cowboys thing or a Packers thing, but you got a young team, a very young team. He's still
the youngest in the NFL.
He's still young. He's still a young player. And you look at the Packers, that may arguably be one of the luckiest goddamn teams in history of the planet with quarterbacks. They just never seem to have quarterback problems like every other team does. In that case, I'm looking at it like lock him up for a few more years, keep him. And if it's going to take a lot of money, I mean, go ahead and do it. And it may be in a couple years that contract looks like dirt cheap, because as things go, salary cap keeps going up, market keeps going up. We got to look at the Patrick Mahomes signing. Like, they've got him locked in for a long time, and now he's just falling down the ranks, but they still got him. Uh, I think it's overall good for Jordan Love what they did. But good for obviously him. He's now super rich, but obviously like the Packers, I think they are just investing in him, and I gotta respect that. They've obviously got him lots of weapons, and then also, if you've already invested the weapons for your players, then the money, I guess, is the next big step. If they show that they can actually do something with those weapons, which he did. So,
and if you're new here and haven't heard this story before, Matthew is our Packers fan on the podcast that he cried the night that Jordan Love got drafted because he didn't want him that much. And now he loves Jordan Love. So just goes to show you, just because you don't like the pick on draft day doesn't mean you won't like it in a couple of years.
I mean, yeah, that's how it is. You don't really know how players are going to work out. There will be players that come out of nowhere, end up being incredible, and then you're just fully invested in them after a certain point. And then you got players that you're super hyped about that end up breaking your heart and letting you down in every way possible. So, yeah, I get it. I get it, obviously. I know you do too. So it's one of those that I respect it from the Packers organization. They've got it figured out. They've got it figured out over there, and they can make the big push again, I'm sure. It may take a few notable free agency type signings if they're not quite there this year. I do think the problem the Packers have is their division is pretty tough. I would argue they're the second toughest division in the league right now. For me, number one is the AFC North, and then the number two is NFC North. If I had to rank them, and after that, I would have to. AFC West obviously would be up there, and so there's obviously and the NFC West as well. I think, except for like maybe one team there, but yeah, I think that's right now the biggest struggle for a lot of teams is that some of the notable Super Bowl contender type teams are in stacked divisions. So they're going to have to kind of battle it out with a few guys in there. Then you've got, there's other teams where it's like, I don't feel like that this way this year as much as I used to, where it's like there's a couple divisions where you're like, it's this team and then all the rest. So it's like they're going to win it. It's just a matter of what kind of seed are they going to get for the playoffs. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like every division has at least 2 or 3 notable teams in it this year.
Yeah, I think it's just the skill gap is closing. I think everybody is becoming as good as each other. There's obviously some people, those very few out there that are just levels and levels above the rest, but for the most part, everybody at this point is just in the same category, and it comes down to coaching.
All right, what else?
Well, that was my last bullet point I've got on here. So if you have anything else you want to talk about, then let's talk about it.
Well,
if not,
so I've mostly been keeping up with my own team for training camp and stuff, but I'm curious for you, whether it's the Broncos or just anything else you've seen around the league with training camp and obviously preseason stuff too. Is there any player or team that immediately on your mind jumps out as this guy's about to be a guy?
Um, I mean, as far as my own team, I definitely have, a couple of guys that I've seen in camp that have looked really good.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I see stuff from every team just about on Twitter, like this person had a good day for this team in camp, which is all, subjective to how you feel about camp anyway, if you think it matters or not. I personally think it definitely matters because if you don't play good in camp, you're not going to play good in a real game. So, but as far as my team, Bo Nix has looked really good. And surprisingly, Zach Wilson, to me, so far has been QB2 behind Bo Nix instead of it being Jarrett Stidham, which I thought for sure was going to be the case whenever we signed Zach Wilson. But he's pleasantly surprised me. And they're all fairly close together. It's not a runaway in any sense for QB1. And then we've got a rookie wide receiver, Devon Veal, or Vel. I'm not 100% sure how to say his last name. He's been a real standout wide receiver so far in camp. And then, like I said, from around the league, there's so many guys that I've seen have looked really good in practice. Notably, I think it's Ladd McConkey on the Chargers has looked like their wide receiver 1 in camp so far.
Not much competition over there, I think.
There's not, but that's still a good sign from a rookie wide receiver.
Hey, Chargers, fuck you. Fuck you. Look, I'm telling you right now, Jason, me and Tyler, we wanted our first 2 picks to be Joe Alt, Ladd McConkey. Who fucking got them both? The goddamn Chargers. So I've got a little bit of a vendetta against the Chargers this year. Now, that being said, I'll say I absolutely agree with you. Ladd McConkey has looked awesome. And another, non-Titans team that I've seen a lot out of, which may upset you here, Xavier Worthy has looked really fucking good in camp. Have you seen the clips of him?
I have not. I don't see much about the Chiefs on my Twitter, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, you might want to watch some of them because he's going to be, obviously we know a lot of people were worried that he was just getting a little too much hype just because of having the fastest 40-yard dash time. But obviously the speed matters. His speed is incredible. It seems like he's getting incredible separation, and he's got a very good quarterback throwing him the ball, obviously. So Xavier Worthy might be a problem, and I'll tell you right now, Xavier Worthy is like the key for them because obviously Kelsey's getting up there in age. He's still got it, though. The Chiefs, I don't even know if they take the regular season serious at this point because they're like, just have to turn it up in the playoffs. But if Xavier Worthy ends up being an absolute dog, we need to all hate the Buffalo Bills because they let it happen. They traded with the Chiefs, letting them move up, get Xavier Worthy. They end up getting Keon Coleman instead. But I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? If they had taken somebody else or like traded with somebody else, I get it. But to trade with the Kansas City Chiefs and letting them get the fastest wide receiver in the history of the combine, it's just ridiculous. But that's the reason he fell so far, is everyone was like, maybe it's just the combine. But with the way he's looked in the in the clips I've seen from training camp, he's looked really good. But again, it's just clips. Obviously, all the teams are going to put out the best clips. You still have to. I agree with you. They got to look good in training camp for them to be good in the regular season. But it's also, you do have to take it with a grain of salt because it's like if they play really, really good, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll play really good for real. But
Yeah.
They still got to at least be good there for me to have faith that they'll be good during the regular season. But um, and then I'll say, for my own team, uh, even though obviously said I wanted Joe Alt, J.C. Latham has looked incredible in camp, and that makes me very happy because we've been in left tackle hell ever since Taylor Lewan left. It's been literally awful. We had the worst, stats wise, the worst left tackle in the league last year with Andre Dillard. And good luck, Packers. Have fun with him as on your team. I don't know if he's supposed to be the starter, but they better hope he isn't, because oh my God, he was awful. He let poor Levis and Tannehill get sacked like 100 times. And that's another thing that you have to take with a grain of salt with training camp, too. Last year, Arden Key in training camp looked like he was the next coming of Christ. He was incredible, just getting through and getting sacks and everything in training camp. He was on the side where Andre Dillard was. And so it may have been an Andre Dillard thing because Andre Dillard was still awful. And then Arden Key was just kind of okay last season. He had his moments. But, I'll say J.C. Latham looks really good. Us bringing in Bill Callahan, offensive line guru coach, just it's incredible for his development. And he's balling out. And another notable guy, our second round pick, who I thought we probably reached. We probably could have dropped back, maybe picked up a third round pick and still gotten him. A lot of people say that there was about to be a run on this particular position, so maybe not, but I don't know. We got Devondre Sweat, and he has looked incredible at nose tackle. And he's just gigantic, which worries me a little bit about how much he can be out there on the field, depending. But so far, he's been really good. I think they're still trying to get his weight down a little bit. But, I mean, he takes up so much room. He's basically stuffing any run hole that you've got down the middle because you've got Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat right there. Those are big men right there in the middle, locking up the run lane and also potentially going to be getting a lot of sacks too. So I'm excited for basically this and this for the defense. Everything like right here, I'm a little worried about. I'm a little worried. Linebacker and safety, I'm a little worried. But we'll see how it goes.
Again, you'll probably get to see those guys. Well, maybe not Jeffrey Simmons, but Devondre Sweat, I think you'll for sure see him play in just a few hours.
Jeffrey Simmons is not playing. At least, so I will say another thing that's so great about this season is I'm very used to Mike Vrabel type press conferences where you don't get answers about anything. And I will say Mike Vrabel, he was a great coach. I really liked Vrabel. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're in kind of a breath of fresh air type situation here of just it's nice having a coach that's very open. At the beginning of every press conference, he starts with, all right, first, this person's out for this reason. We're thinking about this long, blah, blah, blah. He does all that to start out. Goes ahead and answer those questions. Not used to that. So he literally went on the press conference and is like, all right, here's what we're doing with preseason. Will Levis and the starters are going to play like the first couple series, maybe the first quarter, and that's it. I love that transparency of just, we're going to play them, but it's not going to be much. And then he also said notable players that are not going to play at all: Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, and I think there were a couple others that I can't think of. But so you're not going to see them out there at all. But I'm curious to see what Devondre Sweat's going to look like, because if he looks still really good without Jeffrey Simmons out there, that's going to be awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of coach transparency and whatnot, Sean Payton has openly said that he hates the idea of in-game interviews, and now the NFL is making it where it's mandatory for each team to do an interview in the first and second half of every game. So Sean Payton said that to fight against that, he's going to send out kickers and punters to do the interview every time.
That'll probably work. They're like, we don't want to interview the kicker. Who's y'all's
They
kicker?
interview. It's still Will Lutz.
It's Will Lutz. Okay.
Yeah. I think that would be hilarious if he sends out, like, for the first half, he sends out the punter and it's like, so how's the game going for you? He's like, oh, well, I haven't had to punt yet, so pretty good. And that's the interview.
That's so great. That's so great.
So I don't know if he's going to actually go through with that, or if the NFL will let him go through with that, or if they're going to make him do like a skill position player. But what do you think about making teams do in-game interviews?
I think they're worthless. They're absolutely worthless.
Okay. We feel the same way about it. There's no point.
Okay. So while I like transparency in the press conferences and stuff, like in between games and stuff, mid-game, at the end of the first half, they're about to go into the locker room and make adjustments. They aren't going to say what adjustments they're going to make. They're just going to make them.
No.
They're going to figure it out, and they're going to talk about it during halftime. And, yeah, sure, some hot chick on the sideline is going to go up and be like, how do you feel like you did this first half? What the fuck do you think they're going to say? Oh, yeah, we if they're down by 10, they're going to say, yeah, we got some things we need to clean up. No shit. You're not going to get anything. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be the most transparent coach in the world. You're not going to get shit from those interviews. You have one at the very end about the game, and that's fine. But, and then that's for the coaches. The players, what are they going to tell you?
The players aren't going to know what the coach is going to say. They need to adjust.
Right. And you know what the players are going to say? They're going to say the very media-trained thing that they all say of just, I'm just going to go out there, be a good teammate, do my best, get better every day. The same shit you get from every fucking player in the National Football League. Let's be honest. You don't get much from the players in press conferences because they don't want to be there either. They're all contractually obligated to do it, but no one enjoys it. That's why things like, that's why I really like, Bussin' with the Boys and like these other podcasts and stuff that players do that are run by other players, because I feel like the players are a lot more comfortable and they can talk about stuff and just feel more natural. Like Travis Kelce and Jason Kelsey's podcast is pretty good about that too. It just seems like the players are more comfortable because they know they're not talking to just media people that are going to take every word that you say and squeeze out whatever bullshit they can get out of it.
Yeah,
for clicks.
They're not going to dissect every single word.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the same page about the whole in-game interview and the whole media trained answers that we get every week and stuff like that.
I mean, I'm sure they'll do it, and I'm sure it'll be a waste, but we'll just, I'll go down to the fridge and get me a new drink while that shit's going on, because I don't care.
Yep.
It's not going to bother me. I just hate it. I hate it for mostly the people that are there that really just don't want to do it and know that no one really gives a shit either. But media's got to make their money somehow, I guess.
Yep, everybody's got to make their money except for the players.
Well, especially because they can get fined for doing just about anything.
Literally get fined for everything.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I feel pretty good about this. Obviously, it's a little shorter because it's just the two of us. You only get the Broncos and the Titans view. We're missing some of the other guys. But do you have anything else you want to bring up, Jason, before we call it?
Let us know what you think about us changing our name to the Steven and Jason or Jason and Steven show. It's been just us for quite some time, besides the last episode when it was interrogating me about the Broncos.
Yeah, we've gotten Ryan on here a couple times, but everyone else has been kind of distant. And stand by. We may, if we can figure out a time, and if we're even going to actually do it this year. That's kind of up in the air, I think, right now. There should be an episode soon, hopefully, of all of us getting together and doing our fantasy football draft. Because as of right now, the plan is we're going to do that again. It'll be the 6 of us, me, Jason, of course. Then you got Ryan, Tyler, Matthew, and Gavin. So I look forward to doing that again. It's a fun little thing to do. We've got, our competition for fantasy football and then our competition for picking games. I enjoy doing all that. Adds a little bit of extra things to talk about. So,
yep. And also our playoff bracket at the end of the season to keep it competitive all year.
Yeah, the playoff bracket is especially fun. Doesn't take much.
Especially when
go ahead.
When you get every game wrong in the first round, it's really fun.
Yeah. You just immediately lost, basically. But yeah, and I'm hoping we'll see what we can do with prize picks and things like that too. We'll all be doing stuff like that just to keep the action up, keep it interesting. It's almost back, guys. We just got to hang on. It felt like it's been a really fun but also really long off season. So I'm ready for it to be back. So
yeah, and maybe we can bring in talking about prize picks every now and then on some episodes on what our bets are.
I wanted to do something like that. The problem is it's just we're in Alabama, so we're so limited on what we can actually bet on. If we had more options, I feel like I would enjoy, implementing it into the podcast, like maybe like one bet a week. We all make a bet together, like a real big bet, and see how it does. Stuff like that would be fun to do, but I don't know. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to, if you aren't subscribed to our YouTube, make sure to subscribe, give us a like. It helps out. Leave a comment too. I'm telling you, I've noticed, I never really, every YouTuber out there says this stuff, but I've really noticed when people leave a comment about anything, those episodes always do better. So leave us a comment. Let us know how you think. Let us know what your team, which team is your team, and how you feel they did this off season. And just get the conversation going. And that's it. Jason, you feel good? Ready to call it?
I feel good. Just
right.
Let us know in the comments if you made it this far. What's the one team you think is the sleeper team for this year?
Give us the sleeper team for 2024. I love it. All right, hands in. It feels we were two people, but anyway, 1, 2, 3, football.
Football.